Tomorrow Never Knows by John Blue. CERN, Switzerland. Physicist Dr. Jason Arnold is an operations group leader at the Hadron Super Collider, the largest particle accelerator on Earth. Hadron is basically an underground double-tube system 27 kilometers in circumference and is the largest and most expensive machine ever built. In a few days, under the winter snows of Switzerland, an experiment will be conducted that will accelerate billions of hydrogen neutrons in opposing directions to see what happens when they collide at the speed of light. The theories range from the discovery of new subatomic particles to recreating the Big Bang that many scientists believe created our star-clustered galaxies. But on Earth, 800 feet underground, the studious Dr. Arnold and his scientific colleagues had a lot of work to do in the next 72 hours. They alone would be responsible for what happened at the Hadron Laboratory. The lab is full of computers, control boards, and monitors, cables, pipes, and tubes that all eventually connect to the accelerator. Dr. Arnold pulled his team into a small circle. The excitement was palpable. We all know what we're about to do could make history. Let's all do our. At that moment, his cell phone rang. Sheepishly, he reached into his white lab coat, pulled out the device, and hit the end call button. Apologetically muttering, "Sorry for the interruption." But at least the unexpected call had relieved some tension in the room, and they all had a good laugh. Just remember, we have our theories, but anything can happen, so let's all just do our best. When the obligatory speech was over, he checked the cell screen. Unknown caller. He casually slipped it back into his lab coat pocket, then sighed to himself. Just another robocall. As the days passed, in the NASA-like control room, progress continued in all aspects. Dr. Jay Wilson, the well-respected systems analyst from Virginia Tech, rechecked connections and sensors. Makoto Shima, Japan's eminent data specialist, pored over graphs and readouts to make absolutely sure the accelerator was running smoothly. The famous MIT professor, Dr. Anaya Chaku, pre-programmed computers and software for. They would analyze the results at the moment of the neutron collision. Only 48 hours till go time, and the entire Hadron complex was buzzing with activity. For weeks, Dr. Arnold had been spending countless hours at the lab and was looking forward to a needed and well-deserved break. He finally found his car in the gigantic parking garage and drove the 3 miles to his home, wife Karen, and their 2 young daughters. When he was about to walk in the front door, his cell phone rang. Ring, ring, ring. It was again the unknown caller. But these phones were supposed to be secure, but by this time, with the pressure and responsibility of conducting lab operations, he'd had enough. Knowing it probably wouldn't do any good, he loudly blurted out, "If you don't stop this calling, I'm—" But there was a low static on the line, a faint metallic voice, or maybe just a recording saying, "Dr. Arnold, Dr. Arnold." The slightly befuddled scientist abruptly hung up, and next morning he changed his cell number. The afternoon before launching 1 billion hydrogen neutrons into the accelerator, most of the pre-testing had been done, and they were reviewing control, power reserves, and emergency shutdown procedures. 12 hours from launch, Dr. Arnold had just wrapped up a Skype conference that clarified that board members would be in the observation room the next morning. At 8 p.m., it happened again. Ring, ring, ring. Now curious about the mysterious voice, he answered, "Hello, hello, who is this?" He paused as he noticed the captured number, 000000000. The voice, now clear but strange, cautioned, "You must not attempt the experiment." "How'd you get my number? Is this some kind of joke?" The voice went on, "We represent a global organization that is dedicated to stopping the work at the Hadron Accelerator. You must stop the experiment immediately." Dr. Arnold shot back, "That's ridiculous. This project's been in development for over 40 years. It could possibly mean changing the future of mankind. I don't even know who you are." "Yes, you're right. you don't know who we are. I will reveal myself to you at 11:30. Look to the North Star. There will be a demonstration. Click. That night, sky was clear, the air cold, and the stars bright in the timeless depths of space. Dr. Arnold stood there bundled up in his down winter coat, cautiously waiting for the call. Then, ring, 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 ring. The hair stood up on the back of his neck, but it was only Dr. Shima asking for some final confirmations. As they were finishing their short conversation, the cell flashed, "Unknown caller." He abruptly hung up on Makoto. The voice said, "Now that you are standing outside the complex, look to the northeast stratosphere." As Dr. Arnold gazed through the twinkling stars, he saw 3 points of light moving high and silent like a satellite. He couldn't tell if it was 3 lights on one object or 3 separate lights moving in a perfect triangle. Amazed, as he watched the object move rapidly across the sky, he noticed stationary stars between the formation of the separate lights as they moved west. So, without question, they were 3 separate things, or spacecraft. As the lights were about 2/3 across the sky, one flashed north, one flashed west, and one, in an unbelievable split second, made a right-angle turn, then all instantly disappeared into the dark horizon. The voice came clearer again. "Now you know who we are." "Yes, I think I do," the doctor replied. "Then listen very carefully, Dr. Arnold. We are intergalactic. We promote the survival of all peaceful species wherever we find them. With all intelligent life forms, it comes a time when their technology advances far beyond their wisdom. When that technology threatens other planets, we must act. Many we have saved, but we have not been able to save all." Dr. Arnold whispered, "I think I understand. But what will happen when the neutrons collide?" The voice turned stern and demanding. "One of your theories is to recreate the Big Bang, and indeed you will. If enough neutrons collide, your solar system will cease to exist within seconds. If you do not stop this particle smashing, we will have to take action. Your species will never again threaten other life forms in your tiny part of the universe." Suddenly he knew what he had to do, but how could he convince the others to stop the project? Time was running out. It was now only an hour before he could possibly shut it down, but his colleagues would never believe him. Frantically, he devised a plan to covertly disconnect the collision unit, rendering it harmless. But he'd have to get past Dr. Wilson, whose job it was to make sure the unit was operational. He'd have to get to a service door, but it was a mile of cramped corridor to get to the collider. By this time, the neutron separator was already releasing the billions of hydrogen molecules into the accelerator. Maybe he still had time to delay the project. He ran into the opening of the long tunnel. An earthquake seemed to shake the entire complex as he rushed forward ever faster. Billions of neutrons were relentlessly reaching the speed of light. The green light ominously indicating the collider, fully operational, was lit. In a minute, the Earth would disintegrate into a cloud of cosmic dust. In that disheartening moment, he realized he couldn't reach the emergency breaker he had to pull. The Earth seemed to shudder. Lights exploded. Alarms screamed. The roar of billions of neutrons reaching the speed of light sounded like an Atlas rocket blasting off. Titanium infrastructures began to overheat, turning bright yellow, then brighter orange, bending and twisting like hot wax. But wait, the shuddering was easing, the accelerator slowing down. But how? What happened? Was it a malfunction? A miscalculation? He'd have time now to find the flaw and convince the world to trust wisdom a little more. As he walked out into the sunlight surrounded by snow-capped alpine mountains, he noticed for the first time in months how beautiful it is in Switzerland.